Thanks for joining us for another week of Agent Talk. This week we've got Jeff Moore with Blue Sky Home Group. Now he's powered by EXP, but his story goes deep, and that's what I wanted to share with us today. So he's going to close 100 deals this year, all on internet lead gen. So we're all busy right now, and I get that, and it is a great time in real estate. It's a unique time in the market, but it's a great time in real estate. But where are you beyond today, this month? Where is your pipeline? So he's got a background in coaching. He's going to share a little bit of that, both in soccer and in Club Wealth. And that has also led to his success. So Jeff, first off, I just want to say thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. This is awesome.
Absolutely. So you've been a realtor for 11 years, right?
Yep.
And now you've had this team for 6 years?
Yeah, just about.
Okay. And so with this team, you've redesigned and redeveloped your strategy over time. You kind of came from starting out as a realtor, starting even before that, fix and flips. I want to hear a little bit of that story because I think it's garnered the success that you have today.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. And, I appreciate it. And so I've got a background in soccer coaching. I grew up in Colorado, grew up in the mountains of Colorado, and soccer was a passion, right? So I naturally went down that path of becoming a coach. And I've got an A license with the U.S. Federation and went to college on a scholarship, the whole deal. And I actually went through a serious car accident, that I didn't tell you about, but I got hit by a car as a pedestrian. Oh. And this was my senior year in college. And I was helping somebody out of the ditch up in Copper Mountain. And then some clown slid off the road and hit me. And I, over the course of 12 surgeries over 2 years, my soccer just, vanished. So I got humbled, overnight. And I look back at that and I go, it was like the best thing that's ever happened to me because it forced me to use my brain, then use any talents that I had up to that spot. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to go down into real estate investing and get into coaching. And I, threw the hammer with some flip properties. And then I realized man, retail, you can make so much more money in real estate as a retail agent than investing in flips. So I decided to go down that path, right? And I basically, the light bulb moment went off when I said, I have to be in business for the next 20 to 30 years. So slow down. It's okay. You don't need to win any awards this year, right? Let's paint the path. Let's get the railroad tracks out there and be okay with failure. So I had an ISA division. I built up this crazy ISA division and I just crushed it myself, but I couldn't have my weekends. I was working all the time. It was just killing me. I traded, one, hard job for another, and that's not what I signed up for. So I decided to, get the agent path. And at that moment, they became my client. The real estate agent became my client because I needed to find them leverage. And so I started to develop systems. I started to develop technologies and ways that it would make it easy for them to not have to think about anything else except for real estate sales with the consumer, right? And that's what you see, the fruits of all that labor is them, finally agents doing so well with our team that they're not having to worry about tech. They're not having to worry about systems. That's all leveraged for them. And it's finally starting to come true, which is awesome.
And it took you years. So let's say that we were talking to somebody, and there will be people that listen to this that want to inquire about maybe joining your team. But there's also people that are going to be listening to this going, well, how do I build what Jeff has built? Yep. What would you say your biggest lessons learned over the last 6 years have been as you've kind of built this team up?
You don't have all the answers. You're not the smartest person in the room. And if you are, you're not in the right room, right? You've got to be, this business will humble you quickly if you feel like you're the best person at it. And you got to think big, right? So I also believe that one of the best lessons was I got to start measuring myself on a national scale than a local scale, right? Think bigger. And part of that was just being okay if it's not going to work. If failure is okay, if you're not willing to fail, then you're okay with that kind of mediocrity. You're okay with what kind of staying where you're at. So I learned those lessons hard, right? Bringing a bank account way up and then just seeing it hit the bottom, right? And I'm like, okay, you've got to start learning more and using those lessons better, right?
I think you bring up a good point with the fact that you've got to be willing to fail. Over the last, I'm coming up on 7 years with Fairway, and it was when I joined Fairway that I decided to grow this team, which I hadn't before. I'd been an independent loan officer, and I made some huge gambles and lost some big money along the way because without those risks, without making that leap, then you'll never know what you're fully capable of.
Right.
You also had to learn technology. Now, is that something that you were just kind of naturally accustomed to, or is that a skill that you had to learn?
It's a skill that I had to learn. All of that stuff is a skill you have to learn. I think just adopting anything new requires you to have a little bit of courage just to give it a go. Mm-hmm. But the root of it was I wanted to create something where I didn't have to worry about it when I'm away. Right? Time is what I value most, right? So if I'm gone, if I go on a fishing trip or if I go on a mountain biking trip or whatever, I want to be able to not have to worry about, what's going on. So in order to do that, you've got to leverage with technology. And that starts with, what do you want, right? What do you want the experience to be like for your client? And then backing yourself out of that to implement the tech that is going to solve those problems. So that's the birth of it, right? And it's like, if this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. And I found that I was really naturally gifted to do that, right? And it's now fun. I think it's kind of fun to do that.
It is good. Well, when you start to see the fruits of your labor, 100 closings this year through internet leads is substantial. That's success. So Jeff, I love how you did it. I love the fact that you kind of came from, you were a soccer player, right? And a coach, and you kind of took something and you saw the vision, you saw the opportunity, of course, that the retail realtor had that opportunity to make money, but you went beyond that. You saw that, and then you created technology around it. You created systems around it. You created process around it. And now you've given that gift to the realtors on your team, the real estate agents on your team, and to those who want to follow to go, okay, if he can do it, I can do it too. It's just a matter of lining out what's the process from A to Z, and where can I implement strategy, and where can I facilitate capitalizing on having other people come beside me.
Yeah. It's like the vision, right? So one thing before you move on, right, is I think everybody's vision can be very different. And I want people to have that own identity with their vision, right? But I think a core question is, there's two core questions I think all professionals that want to have a career is, who's your client, right? And who do you like to be around? And put that into what I call core values, right? And those are the two things. If you can get really dialed in on that and you make decisions based on those two things, everything else will kind of take care of itself.
Gotcha. Well, with that, Jeff, I want to wrap this up and say, is there anything that you would leave somebody who wants to come in beside you or behind you even, creating something like what you've got? What would you tell them is the first thing to do? Just come to terms with it not being perfect, right? Come to terms with it not working right away. And it's like they're getting on the phone with the first time with somebody you don't know. You're not going to sound good. It's okay, right? So I think the start is just start having lots of conversations. This is a full contact sport, right? And I think you got to have, lots of people that you're talking to, and just start filling your buckets, right? And then the organization will come later for sure. But having conversations and just start getting yourself out there, then start failing, start trying stuff, get with a coach, get with some mentors, right? If you're going to start spending some money in real estate, start getting with people that have done it before you, so you don't have to learn the same hard lessons that others have learned, right? And I know as a coach, you are a coach, I'm a coach for loan officers. The value there is monumental. It multiplies what you're able to do as an individual when you have someone that's walked a couple steps in front of you. And on that note, I know that you're continuing to build your team. So if there's other real estate agents that want to look at building their pipeline with your team, I'm sure you're open to having that conversation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and even if you want to investigate how to build your own, Like, dude, there's so much business. There's so many agents. I'm an abundance mentality guy, right? Like, I think that gift of just sharing is why we're even on this call now, right? So just open yourself up to that, and I'm open playbook. You can come in. I'm happy to share as much as you guys want. For sure.
I love that about you, and I know that that's so true. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today, Jeff. It was absolutely a pleasure.
Yeah, this was fun. I appreciate it. It's great.
All right. Bye-bye.